All right, everybody, we are live. I'm here with the Swolefessor. Introduce yourself, man.
So, guys, Marcellus Williams, aka the Swolefessor, on YouTube and Instagram. I'm a certified personal trainer and strength and conditioning coach. I'm a full-time powerlifting coach and general strength athlete trainer as well. I have a degree in kinesiology, and yeah, that's the main stuff anyway.
So you have a degree in kinesiology. Where'd you go to school?
University of North Texas.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to do one brief. I did a podcast with you before.
Yes.
And that was I had a great time with that. That was for the smaller channel. I'm not doing really the podcast things for the smaller channel anymore. I'm trying to do more things and just kind of speak my own opinions and shit like that, which some people are obviously pissed about and some people actually like. Which I'm absolutely fine with either way, because I just want to try to get people to think about what we're going through and everything like that. Because I try to view things from a very macro level,
Sure.
I am not a genius with the micro level shit, which is one of the reasons why I want to bring you on, so I can, possibly correct my own information.
Sure.
If I'm reading some shit wrong. I'm trying to just assimilate as much as I can. I read a lot of studies, and this will help me out for all the shit I do, dude. So you're actually helping take the old man to school here a little bit. My thing about all this is there's so much information, and from what I'm seeing about, and we are talking directly about the COVID-19 pandemic. And for the record, before we get started, please excuse me for a second, man. I don't want to waste your time, but this is a horrible situation in our world. It absolutely is. Okay, I don't want anybody to think that I am trivializing the loss of life by anybody. I'm just trying to look at things from a very macro level, and I'm trying to view things a couple months ahead of where we're at, based off the information we have. Because I think people are our society in the social media world is very reactionary, in my opinion, of course.
Very.
And people are going off what they see right now, and we need to be thinking about, in my opinion, we need to be thinking about a couple months from now. I'm going to say this right off, because a lot of the people have either been cheering me as finally somebody's saying all this shit, but there's also a lot of people that are just basically pissed that I'm in any way suggesting that the steps we're taking aren't in the optimal in the optimal interest of the human race. Why people I use the Everyday Day Fitness channel to talk about facts and things like that based off of opinions. I've even reached what people don't know is oftentimes when there's a powerlifting thing I want to talk about, I've reached out to this young man because I truly appreciate your work. I think that you approach powerlifting from a much more health standpoint than most other people. I think you look at a pound for pound strength advantage more than you do just like what I used to do, which is just eat McDonald's McDoubles until I got stronger, because that's kind of literally how I got strong.
I'm very big on longevity in the sport.
Right. Yeah. And that's something we share to a great deal, is that I believe in working out and everything like that, and you should be strong. Now I did want to tell real quick, for the people that are trying to comment right now, the comments section is really not even going to be used that much, but it's really for members only. So that if you're a member of the YouTube channel, you get to comment. But if not, I'm very sorry. But I did really just want to have a conversation with this young man, and we're not really answering questions from the comment section anyway. So my apology for that for those of you. Now, however, I did want to say that if in any way I have upset people recently, that is not my intent. So I do apologize to you. My delivery is oftentimes very blunt. I just want people to get to think and understand what we're doing. Think and understand how things are going, because to a very great degree, I see us putting ourselves in positions that could be just as detrimental, if not more detrimental, than than these types of things. I really do. I try to assimilate all the information, and this is a deadly disease. People are dying.
Yes.
But there's many things that kill people, and I'm just worried for our species, basically, in that on so many levels that we'll talk about. But I wanted to clear up a few things about where I'm coming from, because I think that people are getting very ass hurt. Trust me on this. I'm not going to go. I have immunocompromised people in my family. I'm not going around them for a long fucking time.
Right.
But I will point this out to all of you out there that are somehow super upset with me. I don't go around my parents and my elderly relatives and stuff like that very often during flu season anyway, because the flu season can kill an elderly person very quickly also.
Right.
And if you all of a sudden find yourself hyper aware of trying to protect the elderly and the immunocompromised, you should have been taking a lot of precautions to fucking begin with.
Yes.
Because when was it? I have some statistics. I'm gonna look here. La, 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 la. Let's see. I'm looking at every year. So people, this is just a very realistic thing. Every year, the seasonal flu worldwide kills 290 some thousand to 650,000 people worldwide every year. That's with a vaccine. So, I mean, everybody needs to I'm just trying to get people to gain a little bit of perspective on what we're doing here. Death is horrible in any form, but death is also a part of life. It absolutely is.
Yes.
And there is things that we need to look out for that we could be like, it's one thing if we were just able to shutter in place and people were okay with that, and people didn't have to like depend upon getting food and stuff and, you know, paying bills and everything like that. But my concern is that we are going to push this to the point where we as a society, especially in America, I can see things going very, very south very, very quickly, and that scares me more because the very people that we are trying to protect, the immunocompromised and the elderly, if there is a complete social or economic collapse, I fear that more of them would die than from us taking universal precautions. And I did want to state for the record, people, that when I mean universal precautions, I do mean that we should very much, and I've stated this multiple times, we should very, very much, no matter what happens, even after here's my thing. The government right now and the world right now can announce that it's over, we're good, no matter what. And I am going to advise the immunocompromised and the elderly in my family to stay in place.
Yes.
You know, I absolutely stay in place because there could be a resurgence, there could be, it could mutate, there could be a million things, and it's a very scary time. But I got to be real. Like most of the people that are like that in my family and in my close circle, anyway,
are already probably doing that around this time of year. Yeah.
I mean, very, very much so. I won't go around my parents if I think I even have a cold. I often, you know, will check my temperature before I go around them because, you know, very real, and I wipe down everything. You know, no matter what, hand sanitizer is like crazy because I've worked in healthcare before. Just so the people that are new to the channel understand, I worked in healthcare for like 15, 16 years. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to talk about a few things with that. I did multi-unit nutritional management for hospitals, skilled nursings, assisted livings, Alzheimer's ward, you know, you name it. So, I see how much during flu season, what it can do to a nursing home. A nursing home can get wiped out during flu season, or a norovirus. A norovirus outbreak in a skilled nursing can wipe out a huge portion of the population. It's very scary.
Right.
So, you know, in retrospect, I think that, you know, this should be a wake-up call for everybody that every year, I mean, if we're so concerned about people's lives right now, you could possibly be saving lots of lives just by exhibiting universal precautions every year during flu season. Because, like I said, you know, 291 to almost 650,000 people die of the flu every year.
And I think the problem is, like, I can guarantee you from what you just said right now, instead of them taking it as you saying, like, guys, these are certain things we should be doing year round anyway, regardless of COVID-19. I can guarantee you a lot of people are just going to take what you said just now and take it as, oh, he's trying to diminish the deaths of COVID-19 by bringing up the flu.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous. Like, that's, to me, one of the biggest issues with this whole thing. It's not been the varying opinions. It's not been the varying data. It's been how close-minded people are to new information, or how close-minded people are to hearing different views and interpretations of those views. Because one of those things where it's like, let's say it wasn't COVID-19. I guarantee you, if the media right now was tracking like the amount of deaths from the flu, right? And every time someone dies was posting it and talking about it over and over and over, people would start taking the flu way more seriously than what they probably do now too. And that's the reality of the world we live in. Like, if you hyper focus on something, no matter how bad or not bad it is, it's going to make it seem scarier in nature. And I mean, that's one thing that I think almost all the experts are agreeing on is, hey, no matter how bad this is, or even if it's not as bad as we think, going into panic mode and, you know, demonizing each other, like, this is the time where everyone needs to be more united than anything. And instead, it's like, if you so much as suggest that man, this shutdown might have long-term detriments, then everyone's like, oh, screw you. You don't care about people. You don't care about those getting sick. You want to save lives, which to me is very unfortunate because it's like, it's not one or the other. It's not just shut down or, oh, we don't do anything, which I think is unfortunate. People's mindset is like, and as far as I'm aware, because I can speak for myself, I can say right now that I personally, as with how the shutdown is right now, currently what we've done, first of all, I don't think there's enough information or data right now to say if we made the right call or not. But I believe that kind of taking what we think is the best measure to ensure the safety of the most people when we didn't have as much data, I think that made sense. I think that's smart. I have no issue with that. It's like, if we don't know, then I'd rather be safe than sorry. My issue is when people take the time to say that, okay, well, what's our next step going to be? Because it could be possible, not saying it's a fact, but it could be possible that, just based upon more data that's coming out, different models that are trying to take into account, the vast majority of people may already have it, but simply haven't been tested, that, hey, the mortality rate may be a lot lower, which means, hey, we may not have to be shut down as long as what we originally thought. To me, that is only good news. It means less people are going to die and that less people's lives will be ruined from the collapse of the economy. That is only good news. But for some reason, whenever you present that, people are only hearing, oh, so you're against the shutdown. We've already shut down. It's not about if we should or shouldn't have. And that's already done. It's what are we going to do next? What is the best move next?
I've been a little, I mean, I understand people, first of all, me and you have known each other for about 2 years now, right?
Yeah, it's been a while, yeah.
And anybody that's ever been involved with me pretty much knows that people liking me is not like the point of what I do,
right.
Because I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's like in person and on YouTube and shit like that, because I'm very much who I am, like.
You're a very blunt, straightforward person. You're very yeah.
I mean, I say this all the time. I have like massive ADHD, so I don't even have like choice sometimes. There's like very little filter. I was able to do, like when I worked in long-term care, I was able to like kind of make sure I presented myself in meetings and stuff like that. But that's like me putting on a suit and doing my thing. It's like an act. But this is just kind of me, Now, I understand that people get fucking pissed and shit like that. So I was stating my opinions. Like I was on a cruise ship, and I was on a cruise ship. I got off the cruise ship 12 days ago. So in 2 days, we'll find out whether I got coronavirus or not. Because I was literally, 14 days ago. Right now, I was in Cozumel, Mexico, with people pouring shots down my throat in bars.
Got you.
I personally believe I had, I really think that me and my family had the coronavirus in early January because we all had flu-like symptoms, blah, blah, blah. My son came down with us and he had a very sore throat. I believe we did. I have no proof. It's just what I think. I personally believe, and these are my beliefs, I personally believe that, relatively speaking, if we're either going to believe, and this is something you and I can talk about and discuss, we're either going to believe it is more contagious than the flu, which a lot of people say, right? Mm-hmm. We're either going to believe it's more contagious than the flu,
right,
or we're going to believe it's deadlier than the flu. Because if it's more contagious than the flu, and it went unchecked for months, for 2 months, a month and a half,
the mortality rate is lower. Yeah.
In America, would there not be tens of millions of cases? And if there's tens of millions of cases, the death rate is much lower than what we thought. It just happens to take a lot longer to fruition, right?
Right.
So, I mean, that's where and please, if you could elaborate and talk about that particular logic strain, because and people should know this. He has told me I'm wrong before about shit, and I listen because I try to listen to people smarter than me, and even to the point where like the last 2 things I put on my Instagram have been people that are much smarter than me. And people still are mad at me about those. So, and everybody in the comment section, I did open up the comment section for people to ask questions. But if you guys are going to get political and say it went unchecked because of this or it went unchecked because of that, I really don't. Or start saying lies. I really am not like going to have that. So I can shut that off again, or you guys can just listen and ask this young man who understands how to read a study and who is highly educated. We can ask questions, but if you're going to try to just make statements, I'll just shut them off again. And I'll leave them just open to the members, because that's the reality. I want to have a very productive conversation. I don't want this to get inflammatory in any way. That's why I wanted to have you on, because again, if and I promise you folks this, he doesn't. You don't work for me. We've never exchanged money. I can do very little to him or for him or against him. In the scope of things, he is his own entity. He is a very accomplished and well-renowned powerlifting coach and strength coach on his own. I could do me screaming and yelling into a camera would just make me look like an idiot if I tried to go after him anyway. So, your thoughts on what I just presented? It's either very contagious, more contagious than the flu, or deadlier than the flu. But I don't understand the math on how it could possibly be both.
Right. So basically, what we have to look at is the first thing to understand is a lot of where a lot of the fear is coming from right now is based upon a model that pretty much shows, there could be anywhere from 1.1 to 2.2 million deaths from this. And those numbers, those original predicted numbers are based upon the amount of reported cases right now, right? Like cases where you go in and you get tested. And it's the amount of people who are recovering versus those who are dying from it.
Right.
Now, once again, let me make it very clear. Based upon those initial numbers that we had, because at first it's kind of all we had, it's the only models we were looking at, our mindset was, wow, we can potentially save millions of lives if we go into shutdown mode, right? So once again, that's neither here nor there. We're already at that point. It's more so about with the information coming out, we're going to do next. The problem with the numbers, though, is that they're very, very skewed for the mere fact that if this has been going around for months, right, from the time of the outbreak, originally in China, and with people traveling to different countries and going to Italy, the US, and we'll kind of get more into Italy later in terms of why you have to be very careful when trying to compare Italy to other nations. We'll get into that later. But essentially, if far more people have it than what we realize, and it's simply the fact that they're either asymptomatic or they already maybe had minor symptoms, and they just thought it was maybe the cold or the flu, so they just stayed home and they kicked to the curb. Right. If far more people have it, and we compare that number to the number of just confirmed cases, because keep in mind, to be tested, and granted, there's exceptions to this, right? They've got athletes and famous people getting tested, even if they're not showing certain symptoms or if they're around somebody. But usually the way you get tested is you have to have a certain amount of symptoms to even be tested in the first place.
Right.
And we understand that for people that have more severe symptoms, it's probably going to be more deadly to them anyway, right? So you have to look at that. But if we take into account the fact that, okay, let's just say based upon the Oxford model, some things that we're talking about, that based upon when the outbreak probably started here, that if there's about 6.1 million people by March 9th who already had it, it means the mortality rate is far lower. It's basically looking at the difference between 10 people out of 100, out of a group of 100, 10 people dying versus 10 people dying out of a group of 1,000.
Right.
That greatly changes the mortality rate. And essentially,
now, just as a caveat, not to cut you off, but
yeah,
just so everybody understands, we're not saying that those are acceptable numbers.
No, not at all.
In no way are we trying to diminish the tragedy and loss that those people and those families are going through.
Yes.
In no way are we trying to state that.
Not at all. And that's actually a problem that I have is that with the purpose of us stating the data and stuff like that, or trying to figure out more data, is simply this. As unfortunate as it is, this is the reality of the world we live in. Mm-hmm. If we knew today that only 1,000 people in our nation would die from this, we would not shut down. No. You can think that's right or wrong, but
if we knew 5,000 people, we would not shut down.
Yeah, we wouldn't shut down because more people die from that, from car accidents, the flu, all kinds of things.
Over 3,000 people die from car accidents every day in America.
Yeah, we simply wouldn't. And it's simply the matter of when you look at it from a systematic perspective, they're going to look at what's best for the majority versus the minority, right? Yeah. So once again, and let me be clear, the Oxford model and all the data that's coming out right now, that's the best. That's the thing. We don't know. So if you choose to lean on the model that shows, hey, we could potentially be saving millions of people, that's okay. But at the same time, you can't demonize people who are looking at these other models that are suggesting, well, it might not be, the mortality rate might not even be that high to begin with because it's not taking into account the amount of people who probably have it. Yeah. And to answer your question about if it's very contagious and deadly, it's okay. It's so in terms of deadliness, that's just okay, can it kill people, right? And we know that. But as far as is it worse? Well, if it's extremely contagious, right? And that's the one thing we can confirm. We don't know how many more people have it outside the ones who've been tested, but we know there's way more people who have it than what's been tested. Because if it's not the case, then it's not as contagious as what the research has shown. And what the research has shown us is that it's very contagious. And that's the thing, it's more contagious than the flu.
Okay. So, and in the flu, just so everybody knows, and this is fact, you can look it up. I'm not just spewing shit, but I'm Marcellus knows this. I research everything I talk about. I try to as much as I can, and I really, really do. And then I normally, when I don't understand what I'm researching, I reach out to either him or if it's supplements, I reach out to Robert, stuff like that. So, but
Right.
3 to 11% of the U.S. population gets the flu every year. Okay, that is a very true number. It's anywhere from 3 to 11%. So if it's more contagious than the flu, that means at least 3% of people got it. 3% of the American population is 10 million people.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
if you just start as the factor of the number of cases and then extrapolate down, it's an issue. You know,
right. And that's why, even though, like I said, even though right now we're already in shutdown, that's already done, and we're talking about what we're going to do next. The reality is, we will not know if the shutdown was the correct move or not. Probably not ever, but until getting ready. Because right now, here's what's going to happen. With the way a lot of numbers are trending, where it's looking like the original predictions of how many lives are going to be lost are now lower. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, they're lower because of us doing like the shutdowns and stuff like that. And the reason you have to be careful with stating that is fact is because, well, if the numbers were never going to be that high to begin with, then what we did didn't necessarily affect that. And then you have to look at other nations like South Korea, other nations where they didn't go into shutdown mode, but they did very broad, aggressive testing and isolation of high-risk individuals, which is another thing. There's other methods outside of just shutdowns that are yielding certain results as well. Once again, we still don't know, right? Because South Korea could have another blow up, right? We don't know. And that's to me my biggest issue with all of this. It's okay to discuss the data, it's okay to look at the models, but when you have people like I was going through your comments on some of your posts earlier, when you have people who are literally demonizing, it's really funny. So first, when you give your opinion on it, right, and you did so very logically, people are like, hey, you're not an expert on this, almost as though so you don't get to talk about it. It's like, okay, fair. So then you bring in actual experts, presented by experts, and now they're saying, oh, well, you're biased towards this. When in actuality, if we look at it more objectively, you have a bias towards the first bit of information that came out to you, right? Showing that these huge projections of numbers. Yeah. But if we know that those numbers don't take into account the amount of people who are probably infected and haven't been tested, and we know that there is that group, then if anything, you're being more biased towards that because these other models are at least trying to take that into consideration. And then when we look at like the way, like look at the numbers at places like Germany, Italy, stuff like that, even for the higher death rates, we can account for why some of that is. And that's another thing too. Like, for example, because somebody I see in the questions asked, like, should we be looking at like the hospitals, because the hospitals getting overran is a big issue, which is definitely true. And a lot of people use Italy as for an example with that. Well, the first thing people have to understand is you can't speak in too general terms. It is not all hospitals in Italy that are being overran right now. It's select cities and select hospitals in Italy. The next thing to understand is Italy is already at such a high capacity. There are hospitals around this time of year already. And in terms of like the death rate, right? Because that's the thing. Everyone's mindset is like, oh, we're gonna end up like Italy. We're gonna end up like Italy. And it's not to say that certain areas of the US can't, but to say collectively we will. If you're gonna compare two nations with what's going on with COVID-19, you have to look at the demographics that we're working with. Right. In Italy, we already know they have a much higher population of elderly. And they have a much higher population of people that have underlying issues that COVID-19 will make worse, like smokers, the amount of like issues and stuff like that. And you have to take that into consideration because, one, the difference in population size, but two, in the type of populations we are dealing with.
Well, there's all sorts of things. It's a very large. It's very common to have multi-generational homes, like three generations of a family living in the same home.
Yes,
I mean, it's things like that. And I mean, this is not to knock on Italy or anything like that either. But it is a cultural thing for them to kiss each other and hug each other on both cheeks when they meet. To real quick to the one person asking, shouldn't we focus on hospitalization rates rather than mortality rates? Here's the thing about hospitalization, and this I do know because this is the business I used to be in, and I have a degree in healthcare administration. Hospitals try to run at 85% capacity at all times. Just so everybody understands, it's not like these hospitals were completely empty and then all of a sudden fill the fuck up. Hospitals try to run at 85% capacity because there's inherent fixed costs, such as their salaries for their upper echelon, the stockholders. There's fixed costs that happen with each hospital. And they are designed to run at 85 to 90% capacity. And during flu season, oftentimes during the winter, especially in places like America and Italy, because we do have a lot of underlying causes, a lot of underlying medical issues in America too. Hospitals run anywhere from 90, like right around 90% is I think the industry average. I could be wrong about that, but 85% is the number that people go to try to keep their hospitals running. You know, that, I mean, so if you're already at 85% capacity and an unknown illness all of a sudden pops up that infects a lot of people all at once, you're fucked. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And that is something that we should take a look at as a species on how we actually have healthcare. I personally believe that this is a huge wake up call for people to try to just be fucking healthy. And that's a whole other topic, you know.
And it's also important to understand the capacity of certain hospitals in the first place, like the capacity of Italy hospitals versus ones in the U.S. as well, like because that matters. The numbers matter. And once again, it's not to take away from any life lost, but it's to understand that how much life is lost is going to be a huge determining factor of what the next steps are. It doesn't matter how you feel about that. That's just the reality of it. And then something else that I think people really need to keep in mind. This is important. This is very important. This is probably my biggest issue with all of this, is to suddenly latch onto the idea of saving lives, which I'm all for. But I feel like, especially in my age group, and I feel like it might be because a lot of people my age have never actually really seen what happens with like a recession or an economic collapse, or maybe they don't look at the data on it. But if people's idea is that, it's either saving lives or saving the economy, and the economy is just, money or people working, then that is simply not reality. It's very hard. And that's the thing. We don't have a whole lot of data right now on how things are going to end up with COVID. What we do have a lot of data on is what happens when there's a recession, economic collapse. Things like anxiety, stress, suicide rates, violent crimes, murder rate, all of that goes up. All of that skyrockets. So if we come to the realization, which once again, we don't know, keep clarifying that, we don't know, but we come to the realization that, hey, the mortality rate of this is a lot lower than what we realized. And that's included that from this is what we realized. Well, at that point, we then have to decide, is it worth staying shut down for needed then if we know that we're going to ultimately cause far more detriment long-term with the economic collapse than what the virus would have on its own. And it's not to say that that's going to be the case, but it's a possibility. It's just a real and valid possibility as, hey, maybe the virus is really worse and we don't know, and we'll save millions. And based upon what we find out, that's how we'll move forward. But this idea that if you even bring up these other possibilities, you don't value human life, you're against the shutdown, that's simply not true.
I think that's the only thing that made me sit back and be like, what the fuck? You know, there's a couple things that I've said recently where I'm just like, I'm sorry, but first of all, I said the one thing, and this was, by the way, just so everybody knows, I posted this thing from the cruise ship, from the deck, listening to my favorite fucking band, and I posted I'm not a 14-year-old, I'm not going to be given a curfew, you know, but I mean, and I said it kind of as like a half joke, and it was in poor taste, I guess, but fuck off, and because in reality, I'm an American citizen, and I don't think I should be able to be told to stay inside. Now, if you choose to fucking stay inside, that's fine. Yeah, but I'm perfectly capable as a full-on fucking adult with gray hair everywhere for the hair I fucking have, and I got the wrinkles to fucking show it. I'm a full-ass adult, and I personally, anybody that's ever met me in real life knows I kind of social distance myself anyway. I'm not a hugger. I don't want fucking people walking up on me. I don't even shake hands. I just kind of fucking do the head nod to people. Because again, just in case any of you are wondering, I do have compromised immune system people and elderly people in my life that I want to fucking protect. So I don't even want to catch a fucking cold even during the summer and give it to them, because I have people that have respiratory issues in my family, and that's just fucking reality, you know. But I also just think that people don't understand. Here, everybody's all toting the fucking line right now. Everybody's like, yeah, social distancing, do your part. If you go out and you're in groups of more than 2 people, you're killing people and shit like that. Well, first of all, I implore all of you to think about how many people you may have killed then if you had, if you didn't observe these universal precautions during flu season years past, because you could have spread it to somebody and that person could have spread it to their grandma and you could have killed them. So people need to fucking sit their high horse moral justice shit the fuck down, because we should have been observing very, very serious kind of social distancing and stuff like that as a whole. Anyway,
there's a lot of virtue signaling going on, absolutely, because it's like people have to be consistent. That's the thing. If to me, it's not there's anything wrong with valuing life, but to me, it's very odd and hypocritical to value the life of those who might die from corona so much more than the lives of other issues, only because the media keeps putting it in your face. But once again, I expect that result because right now the media is being hyper focused on that. So, well, a couple things. So before I address what you just said, Alan, somebody asked, what do we think about comparing a city like New York City to Italy. And there's a couple things to address there. So first of all, that brings up another possibility. One possibility, if we find out the mortality rate isn't as high, it doesn't mean we suddenly just go full on, okay, everything's back to normal.
No, fuck no.
If anything, I think, okay, if some businesses open up, they still need to be regulated in terms of how many people can be in there at a time, or maybe even hours of operation. And then we can still do things like regional shutdowns, maybe not national level shutdowns, but basically based upon how bad the area is, we kind of keep things shut down there. We get to the point, because right now we simply can't, but get to the point where we do more aggressive testing along with the testing of the antibodies. And then as we are able to more effectively isolate the high risk individuals in those areas, then you can gradually let everybody else get to, get back to some form of normal life. But the areas where it's not as bad already, you can start to gradually do that. But once again, for some reason, it's like people aren't even considering that as an option. They're just thinking it's shut down or nothing, which is not realistic.
I posted the other day on my Instagram that at that time, like 1,200 people had died from COVID, and in that time frame, several thousand people. In fact, I'll look it up because I don't want to I can't remember that shit. I just look it up, do the math, and then fucking go with it. But give me a second. Yeah, I posted that from 2/29/20 to 3/26/20, approximately at 9 p.m. Eastern, COVID deaths were 1,295, and diabetes deaths were approximately 6,180. But for some reason, diabetes is just something we think people should fucking live with, even though it kills, 1,000 people, a couple thousand people a week, or fucking 6,000 people a week in our country, just in our country.
Right.
And somehow that's a problem.
Well, it comes down to what you said about, rights and liberty, which I actually have I've got two views. One view is kind of in alignment with what you said. One, it might be a little bit opposite of what you said. So the first thing is like, okay, for example, in terms of like people choosing to stay inside versus being forced to, right? It's like, okay, we know how many people die from car accidents, but we don't stop people from driving. We know how many people die from alcohol-related activities. We don't stop people from drinking. Nobody's really for prohibition.
Yeah.
We know how many people die from, like you said, like obesity and things like that, but no one's trying to really put regulations on how much you can eat. For the mere fact that it is your right to eat, it is your right to drink, it is your right to drive, and it's the same thing with your right to go outside. Now, what I will say, and this is where it might be a little bit more obvious what you're saying is, because a lot of people will bring, and myself included, will bring up places like South Korea, Japan, things like that, right, where they did more aggressive testing and then go full shutdown mode. But here's something else you have to look at. You can't just look at the demographics differences from nation to nation. You have to look at the cultural differences.
Yeah.
A lot of Asian cultures, especially like South Korea, Japan, they have more of a we versus me mentality. Yeah. So they're more willing to willingly social distance themselves. They're more willing to willingly like take care of their elderly. They tend to be healthy populations, things like that. So I will say this, that if we knew, right now we don't, but if we knew absolutely that, this could kill like 2 million people in the US, I would have no issue with the government kind of like enforcing the shutdown, because the reality is, culturally speaking, we probably aren't going to be as likely as the Asian community to force ourselves to social distance. Yeah. And so there is some gray area to that, right?
Absolutely. Because there's a lot of stupid people in America.
Exactly. There's a lot of selfish people in America, and even on the extreme of people who are taking this very seriously. But if you're one of those people where you've gone out, let's use New York as an example, because someone asked how we would compare New York to Italy, right? So one of the issues that New York is having is the lack of certain supplies, right? Like the mask, right? Do you want to know why they're having a lack of masks? It's because people got freaked out, got scared from what the media was saying, and went and bought like all of them. Yeah. So basically, the panic and reacting to it in a selfish way is making things harder on like the hospital system, like in New York. Yeah. So that's why no matter what, whether this is going to kill millions or only 1,000 or somewhere in between, panicking is not the answer. And people are so quick to say that, oh, you're selfish for, like, if someone's selfish for thinking, oh, I don't know if the shutdown should be long. But I have not seen as many people talk about how selfish it is to go out and buy things in bulk in fear and take away from your fellow citizens. That's just as wrong. It's just
dude, I'm sitting there thinking, like, every person is like angrily typing to me, like, you're a fucking horrible person, and this person's numbers. Like, I shared the one guy's video, the Unitas guy's video. He's like the head epidemiologist in the fucking country. Yeah. I shared his video, and people are like, he doesn't know shit.
Which is insane, right? It's so funny how even though the information you're presenting is technically good news, like I said, if I tell you, hey, this thing you thought was going to kill millions won't kill anywhere close to that, and we might not have to be shut down as long, how is that negative for anyone? I was talking to my friend earlier about this, and what we really feel is that, and this isn't just with COVID, this is with everything. Yeah. Especially in my age group, I feel like growing up, a lot of people like, you've heard of like of helicopter parents, right? So it's kind of
right.
like that, but it's a little bit different. Where instead of being a helicopter parent, it's more like it's a parent where they try to block you from any type of consequence.
Right.
And because of that, a lot of people my age, it's like they're afraid to be wrong. It's like they would much rather be right and know that millions will die than be wrong and realize, oh, it's not that bad. So when you present them with new data or information that shows, oh, hey, this might not be as bad as what you originally thought, and instead of them thinking about it critically and reading through and be like, oh, okay, well, this gives us hope, they're like, no, that's stupid, that's ridiculous, and then they demonize you for bringing up an opposing viewpoint,
Right. I mean,
which is insane. It's absolutely insane. It's like, wait, so you're upset that there's another model which is just as valid as the one that you're looking at, because right now we don't have enough information to say which one is more valid than the other. You're upset that there's a model saying that this might not be that bad. Why? Yeah. That's great news.
Yeah. I was just, first of all, how you keep saying my age bracket. How old are you again?
I am 26.
You fucking puppy.
Yeah.
That could be your dad. Anyway, but I was amazed by that, because when this first came on, people started shooting out these numbers, and they're like, well, the death rate. I'm like, well, that's not the death rate. That's the death rate compared to confirmed cases.
Right.
Exactly. Let's be fucking like, let's call it what it is. We should put an asterisk by that shit.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Because it's not the death rate. It's the death rate compared to confirmed cases.
Exactly. And and the problem is the presentation of the media is so important right now. It's so important because when I put out, oh, the death rate is going up, the death rate is going up, and I show every number, but I do not put that in the context of it's only confirmed to the confirmed cases, it automatically makes it look far scarier. And at that point, I can understand why people are quicker to give into fear or quicker to give up their freedoms and their liberties because of how it's being presented. But what people don't understand is, and it's funny, I keep seeing people in your comments be like, yeah, I listen to the experts, but a lot of the experts are the ones who are pointing out that, hey, these models aren't taking into account the entire population. So the only people who are telling you to only look at the death rate is pretty much the media. I'm sorry, your local CNN reporter or Fox News reporter, whatever you're watching, is not an expert on this stuff.
Well, they need to understand, too, that the media is having – this is the best thing that's happened to the media in a long fucking time.
Oh, everyone's glued in.
Everybody's wired in watching that fucking death ticker. You know, they're literally – I mean, it's fucking crazy. Like, the media is using things like cases soar. Like, that's because we tested more people, you dumb fucks. I mean, like, like, read through the fucking lines. Like, that's why – I mean, because my thing is I was raised to question everything. I'm a fucking atheist. You know what I mean? Like, I was raised to question every fucking thing, you know? And I truly
because I'm a Christian, but I also believe in questioning everything.
Dude, I mean, it's a thing. And we and you get along just fucking fine. Like, hey, look at that. We have complete differences and we could get along. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Learn a lot from people. But, you know, I found it amazing where people were just like taking this shit and running with it. Like, whoa. Let's ask questions. And the very first thing, we're like, well, look at Italy. I've been to Italy. You've been to Italy? Because I can tell you this, those people treat their bodies like shit most of the time. Like the smoking alone, like the secondhand smoking is amazing. Like you can go into one of their fucking restaurants and it's like fucking heavy. You know, I mean, it's that shit. Like, let's take into account all this shit. It doesn't mean it's any less tragic.
No.
But let's look at it. Let's ask questions.
Yes.
And I was asking all these questions like, well, what about the death rate? Well, what about this? Well, what about that? You know, and I was saying, like, which one is it? Is it super contagious? If it's more contagious than the flu, that means 4% of the population has it. That's by definition. So 4% of the population has it. That means it's 12 million people. If 12 million people have it, it's actually much less deadly than the flu. At least right now, right?
Right now, exactly. Based off what we can see right now. And another thing with Italy too is like, it's the fact that what I'm not understanding is people are so quick to. Oh, and on top of like, you know, the elderly and the demographics, you have to also look at the amount of people who are coming from Wuhan, like coming from China, traveling back and forth during all this when, you know, China wasn't being very open with like the outbreak in the first place and stuff like that. Like that's important to keep in mind. Right. And the fact that people were like, for example, people were saying like, oh, hey, our cases are now higher than Italy's or China's, right? So there's two things I have to say about that. One, and this is my opinion. Let me be very clear. It's my opinion. I'm very, very, very skeptical of any numbers China's throwing out right now because they've already shown that they're willing to hide certain things about this. And the fact that their population, how much, if you look at their population number compared to ours, and the fact that the outbreak started there, but we have more cases, I don't know. But even if that's the case, even though our cases have gone up, the death rate, though, relative to theirs, is still lower. So it's like if we're getting more cases, but our death rate is still lower than these other places that have more cases, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But the way the media presents it is just like, oh, there's more cases. That just means we're testing more.
Yeah, that's all. That's all
that means. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily like, oh, this more people got it. This more people could have already had it. They just finally got tested, which is why aggressive testing is so important.
If the first case was noted on the 17th of November, and that's you can actually look that up. That's that's a fact. You know, that's when the first case, by the way, was. That's when they realized they had a new strain.
Yes.
That doesn't necessarily even mean that's the first case, unless they fucking hit the fucking jackpot. You know, I mean, like literally found the first fucking case, which the likelihood of that, just so everybody understands, just doing the math is very fucking small. But let's say they did. Say that's the first case. And then it spread. It obviously spread, like it's from Wuhan, so that means people are traveling back and forth to Italy, because it's like one of the things we know is what's happening. Right. I don't know. People acting like it. You know, it hasn't been around the world already. Right. And by New Year's, you know, it's a month and a half later. If it's super virulent and more you know, more contagious than the flu, it's been around the fucking world. I mean, the one Oxford study, and I posted the Oxford study, but the people are like, oh, it's not peer reviewed, this, that. No, none of this shit's actually peer reviewed right now, just so everybody understands.
Oh, they're trying to do it so quickly, yeah.
It's all brand new fucking studies, so none of this shit is peer reviewed. Fuck off, all you motherfuckers. People haven't sat down and fucking dug through the fucking data that well, you know? But people are like, it predicts that over half the UK population has probably had it or hasn't. Right. You know, that's 30 million fucking people. You know, just alone. Like in America, it could be 100 million people. Like that's the thing. Like it easily could. Now, it doesn't, again, change the fact that people are fucking dying.
Right.
I mean, they really are.
I think it's so sad you have to keep expressing that that's a concern for you. It's so ridiculous that because you're discussing this and trying to get it from a bigger lens, that you have to keep expressing, hey, I'm not saying that I don't care about the loss of life. I think that's ridiculous you should assume that unless someone's a psychopath, that most people care about that.
Well, hang on, because a lot of people assume that about me. So, let's slow that down. A lot of people actually assume that about me. So you should just assume we want people to fucking live.
Right. I will answer this real quick. Someone asked, what if it ends up being a seasonal thing? So the first thing is we don't know when because I mean the flu is already right. So if we end up eventually getting a vaccine for it, then we'll probably handle it like the flu.
Yeah.
But even if we don't, that's another thing why we have to think about this long term, because it's like you absolutely cannot shut down every time this happens. No. So if it's a seasonal thing, that's more reason why we need to be very careful about how we proceed. Yeah. It's not to say that, hey, listen, if the information comes out that we have to shut down for 3 months or whatever to save this amount of people, I'm all for it. Yeah. But if the information comes out that goes against that, well then at that point, if I claim I value life, I am not going to, out of fear, hold on to old data when new data shows, hey, we don't have to be shut down as long. And even though I don't know the effects of the virus necessarily right now, I do know the effects of recession, economic collapse on society, on human beings, and the loss of life that will come from that. Yeah, and then in my opinion, too, let's be honest, man, I don't even think the U.S. society, I'm not talking about what the government's willing to do, I'm talking about society. I don't think we're willing to go longer than 3 months. I think if you try that, you're going to see deaths from riots and shooting. Like, come on.
And here's the fucked up thing, because I've talked about this shit before too. Everybody is peachy right now. Everybody is like, shut up, angry bald man, and fucking young powerless dude, because we need to fucking stay. We need to stay quarantined and blah 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 blah. Right? Everybody's cool right now. Wait till everybody runs out of Domino's pizza money. You know, I mean, wait till people start getting hungry, because very fucking realistically, there's a huge portion of the United States that's out of work right now that doesn't know how they're going to get their fucking next groceries. I mean, there's a huge fucking portion of that. And I fucking shit you not, the way the media is acting right now, if a civil unrest even happens in a teeny tiny little fucking small town in the middle of fucking nowhere, USA, they are going to swoop down on that fucking city, that town, and that's all we're going to see on the news for days, is that civil unrest breaks out in East Jabib, fucking Kansas. And then that's going to happen. You know what that's going to do? Since people are fucking stupid, look at the toilet paper thing and tell me that that's not going to fucking spread like wildfire. Right. That's the fucking problem. That will spread like fucking wildfire. And if people think that that's not going to, like, the very people we are trying to protect, the immunocompromised and the elderly, if people think that they will survive civil unrest, you're fucking stupid. Yes. You're just fucking dumb, because people will pick the easiest fucking targets. Guess who that happens to fucking be? Right. You know, the elderly and the immunocompromised people.
Right. You know, I mean, and then there's even the risk of, like, okay, for those, like you said, like that's another thing with Italy, right? How they have multi-generational homes. Well, when you force the younger generation who either may be asymptomatic or have very low symptoms to stay in a room with the elderly. That poses a risk as well.
Yeah.
That's the thing people have to understand. It's like it's easy in theory to tell people, oh, just stay away from the elderly, stay away from the immunocompromised. It's just not very realistic, though. That's very hard for a lot of people to do. I have a friend who's actually dealing with that right now. So it's like we're like, they're like, one member of the family was tested positive. Now the whole family has to get tested, and it's a very scary time for them. And my heart goes out to them. However,
my best wishes to them too, dude.
Yeah, and it's understanding though that, like, okay, we can even use colleges for example, right? It's like, okay, colleges, if we look at the main age group around it, right? And once again, this is not to say that what we did with kicking kids out of their dorms in the home was wrong. We don't know yet. But the reality is later we might find out that, man, if we would have let people at college campuses stay on those campuses versus coming back home with their parents, their grandparents, we might end up finding data that was the wrong move. And you know what, that happens? It doesn't mean you should feel guilty. You should beat yourself up for it. We acted based upon the information we had at the time. It simply means we missed it and that we were wrong. And people, and that terrifies people, right? Yeah. And I think that's why they're so quick to hold on to something, because it's like, yo, if all the actions I've taken thus far, even though it was with the best of intentions, were wrong, that means that you have to live with the fact that, oh man, all these other people might be hurt because of my actions. But that was, first of all, let's be real, that wasn't necessarily anyone's choice. We're doing what the government put in place. So beating yourself up over that, you shouldn't do that. But you can't let it blind you to new information coming out as well. You can't do that.
When they announced college kids were going home, I was like, why are we trying to have this be a dispersal agent? I mean, like, dude, you're gonna take a group of not people that aren't necessarily worried about getting sick or anything like that, who've been crawling all over each other for fucking 3 months, partying, everything like that, like having a good fucking time. We're gonna send them home to their middle-aged parents and their elderly grandparents. To me, there should have been like a fucking shelter in place with the fucking colleges. Don't go back to see your family. But like actually announcing that tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of college students need to fucking then travel, that was not intelligent to me. And that's my opinion, of course. I just don't get it. Like, I mean,
and part of it is the method of testing we decided to use. The reason places like South Korea were able to test so much more aggressively is because the method they use compared to the method that we used. And it's one of those things where it's like, once again, well, we're here now, that's said and done, but and that's why I am very hopeful when I hear that, okay, they're going to start doing tests for antibodies and stuff like that. That is good information for us to know. And what concerns me is when I look through comments, not just in your feed, but on all these articles and this data being presented, the amount of people who are lashing out at this instead of being hopeful, that is very concerning to me because it makes me really wonder, where are y'all's heads at? The worst part is I feel so many people, for whatever reason, are instead of viewing this as what's best for society as a whole, what's best for overall life, they're viewing it through their political, and it's very obvious. It's very, very obvious that just from comments they're saying, whether it's related to certain senators or presidents, that they're viewing it from a very political lens. And it's not to say that certain politicians are or aren't trying to take advantage of the situation. We don't know that. But my thing is, we as a society should not be so focused on whatever political affiliation you have to where you refuse to accept any data because, oh, well, even though this data makes sense, this Republican or this Democrat said it, so I don't want to hear it. That's ridiculous.
I'm totally shocked by that right now. I really fucking am. If first of all, if you think that here's the thing, I personally believe, and I've said this before very openly, and I think this is why I lost a channel before when I first started out. I believe all politicians lie. Okay, all politicians lie. I really, really believe that. But our politicians right now are basically stating like, here's what we should do, here's what we shouldn't do, and they're just kind of like not even listening to the data. If there should ever be a bipartisan time in America about how to handle something, it should be right fucking now, and there is absolutely not. And part of that, a huge portion of that is not only just from the politicians, but from the diehard people for each political party. Yank your heads out of your asses and understand that it's time to fucking. We need to like really take an honest look as who we are. I will be. I'm just announcing all this to everybody right now. I will be very, very, very honestly going. For the smaller channel, the Alan Roberts, in my opinion, course channel. I'm going to keep that running even after this is over because I do think we'll make it through this as people. And I'm going to be running this even after this is over, and I'm going to be a huge portion of what I'm going to be talking about is hashtag reelect nobody in 2022 because 2020 the players already said we have no choice, but we should not reelect one incumbent into office, and that's my opinion, of course. But that was my opinion, of course, before all this happened.
Right. It's the problem is there's a lot of monkey see, monkey do going on,
Yeah.
which is why even if we're looking at certain states or areas where the outbreak or the cases aren't anywhere near other areas, and it's not even just within the U.S., it's with the nations, which once again is the problem. So a lot of people's mindset is this: oh, well, China's population is this, and they shut down, so we should shut down. With once again, or Italy shut down, so we should shut down, without once again considering the cultural and the demographic differences. It's like, first of all, like, and last I checked, this is a fact, China is a communist nation, right?
Yeah.
So it's like there's, with them shutting down, there's more to it than just, oh, we're trying to preserve life, right? The detriment that they may deal with the shutdown is very different than how it will affect us with the shutdown. That's just objective truth. Like economic collapse from a shutdown here, it doesn't work the same in necessarily every other nation. And the amount of money that certain certain nations are able to give to their citizens during times like this compared to us is different. So therefore, the drawbacks are different. So therefore, you can't simply go, oh, this nation did it, so we need to do it, without looking at the distinct differences between those nations. That's very ignorant and blind, basically, to do.
You know, my thing was like the people, like the virus doesn't care about politics. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
That's a fucking glorious thing to say. But my thing about it was like, my idea was, can we not protect the elderly and immunocompromised and still run the country? Yes. Because if we don't, like, people do not fucking get it. They really don't. Like most of the people that are screaming from the rafters right now have never been really fucking hungry. You know,
right.
like
exactly. Exactly. They don't understand because they haven't. That's another thing. Because they haven't experienced it, it's almost like it's not real to them. But because they're seeing people die or hearing about, oh, this athlete has it, this actor has it, it's like
the athletes have it too,
right? It's like COVID is more real to them than the detriment of the economic collapse. Yeah. And because of that, it's easier for them to be like, oh, but this is saving lives, without realizing, well, yeah, but this is also taking life away as well. And it's not that one is more justified than the other. It's not how that works.
You know, I'm probably still going to post it later, but I can show you. I made some graphics today that I'm going to post on Instagram just to, keep people hating me. But because that's what's happening. But, I wanted to post this. The thought of loved ones dying from COVID-19 is a horrific thought. Ask yourself if it's worse than the thought of that same loved one dying from starvation or lack of medicine due to economic collapse. Yes. Because if you're not asking yourself that fucking question, you're not thinking ahead. Because very fucking realistic. Like, you want to see shit get fucking crazy? For real. You want to see shit get crazy? Watch the price of healthcare jack up. Yeah. I mean, because we have something like 40 million diabetics in the fucking country or something like that, something ridiculous like that. Like people that are on metformin and shit like that. Wait till the prices of metformin and shit like that get out of fucking reach for people. Wait, like if I was a diabetic right now, I would be abso-fucking-lutely.
I want to read this. You can choose to not shut down. You just need to accept that your medical system will be overloaded and lots of people are going to die. This will affect the economy as well. But here's the thing about that. We're already shut down. Yeah. At this point, no one is debating if the shutdown was right or wrong. We will not know that for a while. Good. The question is, now that we have shut down, what is the next step? Should the next step be to stay shut down or not? Because when we're looking at areas like Italy, right? Since everyone loves to use Italy as an example, as an outlier, even after they shut down, the cases kept going up, and the deaths kept going up. And the reality is that millions of people already had it anyway. Then the shutdown only did so much to slow down the spread to begin with. But we don't know. I'm not saying that's the case, but we don't know. And I don't like these straw man arguments where it's like, okay, well, if you don't shut down, it's just like, we've already shut down. That's already here. No one's talking about if the shutdown was right or wrong. It's what do we do next? And I don't understand. I'm trying to figure out where the disconnect is happening. Where is me saying, hey, I want to make the best decision. I want us to make, as a society, to make the best decision possible for the next phase. How are people taking that and somehow in their brain hearing, oh, he hates that we shut down? Let me just say right now, be very clear. I am totally for and okay with the fact that we shut down for right now, because based off the information that we had when we did it, it seemed like the safest move. So let's just make that very clear. I'm not anti-shutdown. If we have to keep the shutdown going for longer to save millions of lives, I'm not against that. But if it's not going to do that, or if there's not that many lives in jeopardy, that takes away the incentive to keep the shutdown. I don't understand why this is hard to comprehend. Yeah, like my thing about it was, it's not even a matter of a shutdown, because that was inevitable. But it was going to happen for the military. For like right now in America, where we're suspending the right of habeas corpus, which means like we're actually suspending constitutional rights. And I keep pointing out to people that's a very fucking dangerous precedent. Just to be able to just all of a sudden be able to say
here's the light switch on that right, we're turning that off. That's not what we intended our country to be. I do think that, like, okay, if you find people congregating or whatever, you can take care of them. But I don't understand, like, people should be responsible for themselves. People are getting fined and arrested for being outside.
Fined and arrested, yeah.
That's fucking insane. Fined and arrested for just walking around. That's crazy, you know?
And that's something that's kind of, a little bit of a different topic, but that is something you have to think about. Once again, the cultural differences. Like I tell people all the time, people are posting videos like, oh, look, they're forcing, like in China, they're using force to force people back in their homes. Y'all should be grateful for not doing that here. Well, yeah, that's because different cultures. China has no issue doing that. That would be it. Please, I want people to really think about this. Like, especially, so I live in Texas, right? I would hate to see what would happen if it came down to where, we're going to use force to keep y'all inside now.
What the fuck out.
That would be a bloodbath. That would be awful.
Dude, Western Pennsylvania is not a place to let that happen either.
Yeah.
I mean, Western Pennsylvania is like the deer hunting capital of the fucking world. Like, it's like the biggest redneck place in the North. I mean, that would be a bad thing. That would be a very, very bad thing. And here's the thing, and I mean this for any of you. If you are living in an area where they're going to stop you, fine you, anything like that for being outside, don't give the fucking cop a hard time. Don't give the fucking person a hard time. They are following fucking.
They're doing their job. They're doing
their fucking job. Don't be pissed at them. They didn't do shit to you. They're just following fucking orders. Like, that's the fucking thing. And that's the problem. It's gonna get onto like that. And I agree with you. Like in Texas, people don't realize the fucking magnitude this could have. This could fucking fracture. This could fracture the fucking United States.
They don't.
We could see states secede from the union from this shit.
Yes. And the good thing is, like, I tell people, and this is just an example. Thank God this isn't the case, because once again, it's not one or the other. There are options where we can keep the economy going as much as possible while still trying to save as much life from the virus as possible. Yeah. But if it was an issue of, okay, you can go to the one extreme to try to save people from the virus, people are still going to die. And that's the one thing I need to make very clear. Guys, unfortunately, when it's a pandemic, when it's a virus, people are going to die. I'm not taking away from that. I'm not taking away from how sad that is. That is a part of this. People are going to die. So that is
an absolute given in the equation.
Yes. So that's my issue with people hyper focusing on just the numbers and stuff like that, because it's like relative to other things, it's not as big as what it could be or other things, but it's not taking away from those who have died. But people are going to die no matter what you do, right? So if my option is I have to go with one extreme of, okay, I might save some people from this virus. Like, let's say there's that 20% of the people can possibly get it, right? And I might save half of that. But in doing that, the other 80% that wasn't going to die from the virus, I'm also going to kill a lot of them from the economic collapse, versus going to an extreme or not even extreme, but going to the option of like, okay, I'm going to do everything I can to keep the 80% preserved while still also trying to save as many as I can for the 20%. Why would I not go with that second option?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. If it's either, hey, screw over 80% and try to save 20%, I'm only going to save half, or hey, let's try to preserve 80% while still trying to save half of 20. Why would I do that? Now, thankfully, the numbers aren't that extreme, right? Because we can do both. We can try. It's about how we go about it. Once again, listen, if they said tomorrow, all right, guys, we're just going to let everything go back to normal, go back to your daily living, that is the most idiotic thing I think they could do. I think that's the opposite extreme. Just because I don't think we should stay shut down for months and months doesn't mean I think we should go back to our normal lives. Regulations on how long jobs can go, regulation on how many people can be at work. I'm fine with all that, but that is still better than the full-on shutdown, because it gets the economy back rolling. And once again, regional shutdowns. Like if New York City is determined, hey, with where we are right now, we need to stay shut down longer. But hey, Texas, y'all are good to go. That's still better than both being shut down.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it doesn't have to be one extreme or the other.
We're getting a few comments. Martial law isn't going to happen. It's given the states rights to deal with how they want. I hope you're right, but there's nothing saying that it couldn't. Okay.
Yeah, that's another thing too. To me, to say that martial law isn't going to happen. And mind you, I'll be honest, I don't necessarily think that it will. But my thing is to say that it's not going to happen. That's no different than me saying, 2.2 million people aren't going to die from this. You don't know. Don't know. But if I said that, you guys would get pissed at me for saying that.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking you to the commenter. I'm not knocking you. I understand that that's your opinion, but that's what that is. It's an opinion.
It's an opinion. We don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. Like a lot of people are stating their opinions as fact. That's why I at least people are giving me such shit. Like stay in your fucking lane, stay in your lane. I stay in my lane on the Every Damn Day Fitness channel. I really, really try, and that's where the channel we're on now. But of course, this is a special exception because on interviews, I'll fucking state my opinion all the fuck I want. Fuck all of you. I don't give a fuck. But on the other channel, like I started off, the channel's name is In My Opinion.
Of course. You're probably going to get
there's a high likelihood. I'm not saying it's going to happen because I don't speak in absolutes, but there's a high likelihood I'm going to say that. You know, like that's the thing. Like, I mean, when we state things as absolutes without saying "in my opinion," like people run with that shit. You know, like people say, you know, without qualification, without context. People fucking run with that shit. That's how people like. I know there's like some of the fat acceptance trolls right now are fucking using my words and trying to make it seem like I'm trying to fucking, you know, I was trying to do like a prison camp for people. Like I was trying to like corral all fat people into a camp or something like something fucking ridiculously stupid, right? But it's because they take my words out of context where I say, you know, it's fucking like it's over. Like, because here's the thing, I am announcing this right now. I'm going to be much more aggressive with the fat acceptance community. You know why? Because that is a very highlight, you know, having underlying conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure, and coronary artery disease, and respiratory issues such as obstructive sleep apnea, do make it much more susceptible that you will need very serious critical care for this virus.
Right.
That's almost factually. I mean, that is every doctor I've seen. So I'm not saying it's a complete fact, but I'm saying pretty, you know, it's pretty highly determined, right?
Yeah.
And if you purposely, you know, if you knowingly put yourself into a state of ill health and there's other people that need your bed, you have effectively killed that person. You know, and I mean, I just think it's, as a society, like
that's a whole topic on healthcare we could dive into, but I'm not going to right now.
Yeah, well, I would love to talk to you later about, you know, at some other time about healthcare, because I mean, dude, it's very nice to talk to somebody that like that I can run stuff past, one, but two, that I mean is not willing to, you know, because I do find sometimes like people don't want to say I'm wrong because like they're worried about like what's going to happen. Like I don't know why. Like anybody that ever comes on my channel for an interview, it's the utmost respect, because one, I'm not the easiest person to talk to just with how I talk, but two, I'm not the easiest person to be associated with either, because I fucking people fucking piss me.
See, it's interesting. Maybe it's just because of the way my brain works, but I actually usually find I like talking to what you see is what you get kind of people, because I'm the type of person where even if I word something tactfully, you don't have to look for a deeper meaning to what I'm saying. Like what I say is what I mean. So when I have, even if you come across as a little bit more aggressive or blunt than what I do, I like it because I just take what you're saying as what you're saying, and I don't have to figure out like, well, what does he really mean by that? So I like it. But yeah, at the same time, I tell all the time, one, I'm not afraid to tell someone that they're wrong, and two, I have no issue if someone tells me that I'm wrong. That means that I get to learn and can better myself. I would not be where I'm at now, experience the success that I am now and everything that I'm doing, working for myself, if I didn't realize that, oh, I did this wrong, or hey, this guy pointed out I should do this, and that's how it should go. And one person pointed out, there's lots of people pulling together, it's just not being highlighted. That is such a huge point. Yeah, and that's something I literally uploaded a YouTube video this morning, just like a 10-minute video talking about some of my thoughts on this, basically expressing that as easy as it is to get caught up in all the negativity, how selfish people are being, how wild people are being, for every extreme that you see, man, it's been so beautiful at the same time to see people pull together, to see people be innovative, to see people express love, to try to take care of each other, take care of their friends, families, people don't even know. And even seeing people like just outside more, you know what I mean? Like in all this chaos, and it's not take away from loss of life, but there is still like beauty to it. And I think it's important to take the time to acknowledge that. Otherwise, you start to feed into the negativity. You start to get yourself high stress. Something as simple as maybe you're at the grocery store, right? Maybe someone's being very high stress and they go off on you. It'd be very easy to feed into that. But I would suggest that instead, just walk away. Don't feed into that. Understand that that person is just as stressed as you are. Yeah. They reacted poorly, but you don't have to react poorly in response to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm kind of amazed by this. People are like, "What the fuck are you doing to help out?" Like, my wife is running free yoga classes like almost every fucking day, like free to everybody, almost every fucking day. We've given out like it's been 5,000 or 6,000, so I think 6,000 downloads of 3 free workout programs for people to use.
No, I've been seeing that. Yeah.
You know what the fuck, man? Like, I understand. Like, so people should just like, I get that. Like, here's my thing. If I thought I was going to be liked, like if I did this to try to be liked, I would have never approached YouTube or my businesses or anything the way I do. I would have put on a fucking act. I would have acted like half the fucking bitches that you and I both know that behind the scenes are completely different fucking individuals than they represent themselves on screen. You know, I absolutely would do that. I really would. But you know, instead, we decided very early that I'm just going to step up to the mic and fucking talk. You know, because. Yeah, that's what I fucking do. So if it's, you know, I try to make sure it is as driven in fact as possible. But let's be real, people. Like, I mean, me wanting this to be over early. Like me looking at data and saying, well, there's hope. Like,
Yes.
I'm sorry, but like I see great hope. I personally believe, just from the data that I've viewed, I personally believe that there's at least tens of millions, if not hundred million cases in America already. Like, I believe that just from logical progression. If it got here in late December, early June, it went completely unchecked. It's super virulent.
Yes.
And it landed in hub cities like New York and Miami, and I in my logical brain, if I believe it's so virulent, which I do believe, there's absolute proof that it's very virulent, it's very contagious.
Yes,
that would mean that millions, tens of millions, if not 100 million or so people are infected, and that means that we need to do a better job of taking care of the people that get it, that get seriously ill. We need to do a much better portion of that. But that means that we're closer to getting back to
operating normally. Yes. And it is interesting because you hit the nail on the head. People are quick to ask me like, okay, well, if you're saying we don't have enough data to know which model is correct, then why do you lean more towards this one? It's like, well, one, because it gives me more hope. And two, because of the things that we do know about the virus. If we know it's this contagious, and if I don't know how many, I know for a fact that there's way more people who have it than the people who are just being tested, which means the mortality rate is lower. Like, so to me, it's like, that's good news.
It's so crazy.
Why would I not want to latch to that more so than, now, mind you, I'm not going to latch to it so hard to where if someone presents me more information showing that, oh, hey, it actually is a lot worse than we thought.
Oh, yeah.
I have to let go of my bias at that point. My issue is that people on the opposite end don't seem to want to do that. They keep bringing up the 1.1 million or the 2.2 million miles. And I'm like, but we're getting more data information that's taking more into consideration than what you're showing. Yeah. Why are you still holding on to that?
I like this thing. I don't get it. Like, I really don't. Like, when I present I'm sorry, but like, everybody's like, well, you're not a virologist. Yeah, but just numbers, okay? Like, people and stuff. Like, if it's like, if every person, if it's exponential, like they say, if it got here exponentially, we should be way ahead of the curve already. Like, we should be way ahead.
And for people to say, oh, well, we slowed it down from the shutdown. Okay, we've been shut down for, I think, almost 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
If it's been going around since November, you think the numbers are going to cut back that much? That doesn't even, that to me, it takes way more faith to believe that.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous. And not to mention the fact that, okay, yes, people are staying in their homes, but guess what? People are still going to the grocery stores. People are still going to banks, businesses that are open. People are still going outside. So it's like, to me, it's such a far stretch to believe that, oh, yes, we cut the numbers down from millions to like the few thousands now from 2 weeks of a little bit of a social distancing, which, once again, I'm for social distancing. Even when they say we can go back to it, I'm still for it to the degrees they implement it. But what I'm saying is, to me, it's very naive and almost trying to pat yourself on the back to believe that us doing this for a few days to a couple of weeks had such a huge impact when this has been going on for months. We simply didn't know about it. That's not realistic.
I keep saying oftentimes, social distancing is an illusion right now. What I can get, like, dude, there's a picture of the fucking our local grocery store right now, and this is no shit. I wish I could fucking find it, but I don't want to put those people on there either. It's a bunch of elderly people, but it's a bunch of elderly people waiting for the fucking grocery store to open within like fucking a foot of each other. Some people like almost touching shoulders and talking. Like, like social distancing is a really kind of illusion. There's still golf courses open. The subway system in New York is open. Everybody's like, well, it's being sanitized. Okay, but if we're being told
airports are still open.
Yeah, if we're being told that you can catch it just in the air, like from water vapor in the air, then it doesn't fucking matter. If you're in a subway with somebody else, it doesn't fucking matter. I mean, it doesn't. The airports are still open. Everybody's like, well, it's just the pilots on a lot of those. Are the pilots going to different cities? Are they going to be in contact with the crew? Are they going to like? I mean, like, I'm sorry, but like, social distancing is kind of an illusion right now. And somebody said, March 10th, 2 COVID cases, March 28th, 4,650 cases. No, March 2nd, you could have 100,000 2 cases, and and it's just a tested one. So that's the thing. Like, you can't, like, those numbers. I'm sorry, those numbers are tested people. Those numbers are not people that actually have it. It's right here. Hang on.
I actually just
put it on the screen.
Okay, yeah, March 2nd, 2 COVID cases, March 24th. Yeah. Yeah, like you have to. That's the problems. Like I said, I took a lot of time. I'm talking about this. Like I'm not an expert in viruses, but in terms of reading data, looking at models, research, and understanding how like numbers work, which I take into consideration. That's kind of more up my alley. And it's kind of like, yeah, like what this guy said right here. I think it's let's see. Perry, the mindset Swolefessor just described, in my opinion, is going to do more damage than COVID-19. It absolutely is. If you refuse to acknowledge new information being presented to you about a threat, you give the threat that much more power. That's whether we're talking about a virus or anything else. It's sad that even has to be explained.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Jorgensen is in Norway.
Yeah,
he said, I was in IKEA today. It was like the whole town had forgotten that we were supposed to be self-isolating. Haven't seen that many people in 2 weeks. And I'm going to point out that IKEA is actually even in Norway. Like, I mean, IKEA is everywhere. Like, IKEA is fucking everywhere. So I just thought that was funny. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but, that's the thing. It's easy to, if you're one of these people where you're truly like, hey, I go to the grocery store and I go home, I go wherever I go home. That's great. But if you in your mind really believe that everyone else is doing that, and that it's making this huge difference in the numbers, which once again, I'm cool with social distancing. And as I say, from a coach perspective, if they have to enforce a little bit more, if it's going to save lives, it's fine. But the problem is, once again, we simply don't know that. And based upon what's coming out now, it seems like that's not the case. Because and what I tell people all the time, if it truly was like just lockdown is the end all be all, well, then why is South Korea doing better? Why is, like, look at Japan, look at these other places. It's like it shows that there's more than just one option. Now, which option is best? We need more data. That's all.
I mean, what I'm finding amazing is, like, you know, this shit. I've gotten death threat, like literally death threats over this shit. Man,
yeah, that's ridiculous.
Like,
they value life so much, but they're willing to take yours.
It's fucking hilarious, right? You know, the one thing I wanted to ask you about is, people make so many assumptions. People are making assumptions about the numbers that they're just completely true. People make assumptions, and I stated this when I was. I stated this. There was somebody, and you were once part of the Pump Chasers crew, right? Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to ask you a few questions real quick, because people got so upset with me about this. Where there was pictures of him letting people into his private gym, into Pump Chasers, right?
Right.
And people are like, they're acting like nothing's going on and it's horrible and it's not. I'm like, what's the problem? Like, it's his private gym. Most of the people that work for him, like, from what I understand, those people that live in his area and work for him, most of the time they're like a little family. They're together all the fucking time anyway. Right. So my point was, there's no evidence that they went anywhere else but the gym and home. None. Right. Like, we're ready to demonize people for like a snapshot, like a picture in our society right now. Like, there's no evidence these guys weren't just going to a private gym. And like, it's like me. Like I don't just work out here. My wife works out here. Our head coach Dustin works out here. I mean, to me, like, we need to understand, like, making assumptions about other people's actions is not necessarily where we need to be as a people. Like,
that goes back to the whole demonizing thing. It's like, because let's put it this way: this situation with Chris, right, or anybody, right, is very context dependent. Right. If you're going to, because most gyms are shut down, right? So I'll even use myself as an example, right? Okay, let's say I go to a friend's garage gym, and it's just two of us, right? If I go to his gym, and then after that I go out and hang out with 4 random people, whatever it may be, then that's going against the social distancing. That could be very detrimental. But if I go to, if I'm going to a garage gym, let's say it doesn't have to be 2, let's say 5 people, right? Yeah. And we all collectively agree, hey, we come here and we go home. And the reason I can say that if that is the agreement, you are actually probably causing less harm than someone's having to go to the grocery store every single week. Yeah. And for people to be like, oh, but the grocery store is a necessity, that's true. But that lets me know that some people weren't paying attention, because I'll put it this way: since this whole thing has started, I've not had to go to the grocery store once. Yeah. My wife and I made sure that we got enough for like at least a month, so that if we have to go back, we may have to go like once a month right now. Yeah. Because to me, I'm doing far less harm if I go to this same gym with these same people, right? And then I go home, versus if you go to the grocery store every single week, exposing yourself to new people. Mm-hmm. So it's very context dependent. Now, once again, if they are hanging out, working out, whatever, but then they're spreading out, doing whatever, then yes, that's an issue. But since you don't know, to act and demonize them based off that assumption, that's the whole problem with what's going on right now. Whether it's someone presenting you information or somebody having a different take on this than you, what's going to be really silly is if more information comes out that, hey, this thing had already spread and blah blah blah. Well, then your whole issue with them is now invalid.
Mute. Yeah.
So it's like I understand because the mindset is yo, they don't value life, or I get that, but you have to think largely because Chris has a daughter, right?
Yeah.
Chris Jones has a daughter. I believe TJ has a child. Hector has a child. So it's like, to me, I would hope, I can't say for certainty, but I would hope that they realize that, yo, I don't want to pose a huge risk to my child or things like that. I would hope so.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume that if someone's doing that, well, actually, no, I won't assume one or the other. I don't know. That's the truth. I just don't know. So because I don't know, I'm not going to go to my way to demonize them, but I'm not going to go out of my way to defend them either because I don't know. It's
my thing is I try to give people enough credit to because here's the thing, it's not going to affect me. I'm not going to be around them, and everybody's like, well, they can infect this person, that person can get to you. Nuh-uh, because I'm only in physical contact with my wife and my family. Yeah. See, but in real time, that's who I'm mostly in contact with anyway. I'm not a huge social person to begin with. I get enough interaction on fucking YouTube and fucking Instagram. I don't fucking, right. I'm not a big hey, come hang out at my house. I'm like, hey, why are you here?
And that's not to go to the extreme of thinking that I'm just okay. Okay, for example, when all this started happening, you saw all these people buying plane tickets, going on spring trips and stuff like that. I thought that was stupid. That's very idiotic. It's like, yeah, you talk about your rights and freedoms, but it's like, if this is going on, and this is before even things started shutting down, but they were recommending, hey, we recommend y'all stay in your homes. If you're still on a spring break trip, that's idiotic. But my issue is you can't compare someone going on a spring break trip and coming back home to somebody going to their private gym, training with the same people every day, and then going back to their home. It's not equal. It's not the same thing. It's just
here's my thing. Because I was told well, they had a big house party. Maybe they all see each other every day. Maybe that's the only people they see. I just find we're sitting in judgment of people on stuff so fucking much. I really do. In my local area, there was people on our local little billboard thing. There's a picture of these 3 boats that were beached, and the people were chilling out having a picnic. They're this is why we're all going to die. That's not why you're all going to die. You don't know that those people didn't even come together, and they just don't all.
That's another thing too. Even looking at so even though the death rate of the tested cases is going up, the reality is the amount of people who are tested, and that's something that's important to keep in mind. So people who are asymptomatic or have minor symptoms are just more likely to have far less risk than those who have major symptoms anyway. But even those who have major enough symptoms to get tested, there's still more people recovering than dying. So even that is good news, even though the death rate in that group is going up, that's still good news. There's more people recovering because, and that's another thing that I have an issue with this too. This is not the whole idea this is going to wipe. No matter what, people are going to die. But to me, if people are going to the mindset this is going to kill the vast majority of human beings, and I've only seen a few people that have that mindset, but that's ridiculous to me.
Yeah,
that there's no numbers to show that.
At this stage, we're trying to protect the very, very, very small number of outliers that have no medical conditions and that aren't elderly, that might get seriously sick by this, which does happen all the time. It happens with every disease. Sometimes the body just reacts very poorly to it, and there's medical outliers that that react very poorly to different pathogens.
Right. How I think at first they were saying that it seems this wasn't even affecting younger kids as much as what a virus usually does. But I think today I had to double check this. Don't quote me on this, but I think they had. I think on the news there was a first confirmed case of a baby who had it, and I'm not sure if the baby lived or died. I'm not sure, but. Even that's so important with misinformation, because I talked to some friends who at one point actually thought that our age group can't even get it, or if we do, we're asymptomatic. It's no, that's not true. I'm you can definitely get it, and you can definitely have symptoms. It's just your chance of dying from it are a lot lower than somebody else's. But it doesn't mean you're just.
I can't believe you're friends with people that dumb. What the fuck?
Well,
how do you communicate with them? Because you're so smart. How do you even talk to them? I don't even get that.
Well, it's just the information thing. That's the importance of looking into it. It's so this friend is actually very, very intelligent. It's more so this is why it's important to be careful of what you're reading and and let's be real, a lot of people aren't like me. I enjoy, whether this is going on or not, I enjoyed just reading and researching. It's a big part of what I do. It's a big part of what allows me to be good at what I do.
Absolutely is.
So I enjoy that anyway. So for me, when it's something this serious, I have no issue reading through things. I've sent articles, links, and videos to lots of people, and I already know a minority of the people I send it to are probably actually taking time to read it.
Yeah.
And I think that's unfortunate because to me, I'll put it this way: if you're going to be very quick to demonize and object to any opinion against yours, then you need to at least know all the different views. If you're not willing to take the time to watch like that hour-long video by I don't remember to pronounce the name, the doctor. If you're not willing to take the time to watch something like that, I don't even want to have this discussion with you, because to me, you don't really care. That's more of the virtue signaling. You're saying you care because it's popular to say you care. It's popular to say you're about saving lives. But how much do you care if you're not willing to get as much information on this as possible?
Exactly. You know, I mean, that's where I'm at with it, because I just don't understand like why people are so like people. It's like people want to see the world end. I don't fucking get it. You know, as information comes up, of course we should take it in, and we should process it. Like the social distancing thing, like I said, I understand. I get it. I really do. I do think that I personally, in looking back, we should have immediately rallied around, okay, as soon as we found out that the immunocompromised and elderly people are the biggest targets for this, we should have fucking rallied. You know, like, okay, nobody gets tested except for the immunocompromised, the elderly, and anybody that's going to come in contact with them. Nobody. You know, let's make sure that we take absolute precautions. Do not go around grandma. Do not. You know, like
the whole issue with it, and to some degree that's easy, right? Like for example, like old folks' homes, you can just allow no visitors, right? That's isolation in and of itself. And anyone who brings some stuff, make sure they're clean. But the problem is, once again, the testing. That's the big thing, and that's why I keep telling people. To me, hopefully, and based on the information, the next best step is going to be broader testing, and then looking at the antibodies. To me, that's hopefully the next best step, because any other thing that we do, we really can't make any other move except for staying shut down longer until that's done.
Yeah, antibody testing. I don't know, but I feel confident that antibody testing will show that it is a massive portion of our population that has had it or has it or something like that. Like, I really believe that.
I agree. I'll be very surprised if it doesn't, and that would be unfortunate. But hey, but if it does, I'm going to bite the bullet and be like, okay, well, then what's our next step?
But but here's the thing, and here's what people don't even get. If it shows that it's not a massive portion of the population that already has it or has had it, that means it's not as virulent and as contagious as what they were saying.
So either way, and that's why I keep telling people, like, and that's the thing about models too that I want to explain. I know it's part of why you brought me on here.
Yeah.
A lot of people look at models as hard data. It is not. It is absolutely not, especially with something like this. It hasn't been around long enough for us to have a whole lot of hard data on it. They're pretty much putting models together as information is coming forward, or as they're thinking about different things, right? But so with each model, you have to take that with a very, very, very large grain of salt. Because and that's the problem. I think that's where the issue happened, because the first model was so doomsday looking.
Yeah.
People keep looking at it as like, you gotta look at the hard data, you gotta look at the evidence. That's not hard data. If anything, that's very poor skewed data, because it's not taking into account most of the population. It simply isn't. So
I mean, the thing about the models that I've come to is like, it's based off of, you know, it's like a hurricane model. Like, I mean, there's some loose data, but there's so many variables. Like, the variables not being counted are, and this is actually a negative, scary thing for America, is because we are not a healthy nation by any stretch of the imagination. Like, our healthcare system is radically expensive. People don't go get checkups to even know if they have underlying conditions because of how expensive healthcare is, which is a huge fucking problem that this is highlighting no matter what. The one thing I can say about this is I am hoping that real, true change happens in our country after this happens. Like, real, true change. Like, how we look at hospitals that you know, the hospital system, like even the healthcare system, for them to constantly be trying to run at 85% capacity, which is the industry average, that is a fucking dangerous thing for something like this to happen. What happens if, like, if the hospital is running at 85% capacity in New York City and a building collapses? We're fucked. I mean, like, all those people are done. You know, like, people need to understand that when we set ourselves up to not be able to take care of ourselves, we're fucked. And the American people as a whole, and this goes out to people, this is not to shame anybody, but if you are not trying to be the healthiest version of you, this should show you, and I've said it for a long time. You are part of the fucking problem.
That's a harsh reality. It's true.
Even because we share healthcare costs, you owe it to society to try to be as healthy as you can. Get help for your eating disorder. Get help for whatever you fucking need to do. But you owe it to fucking society
Yes.
at this stage to be as healthy as you fucking can.
We don't have to go to the extreme of people who are like, oh, you don't work out, you don't eat right, bro. Washing your hands. The fact that this has got people doing something that should what?
It's so nauseating.
And I hate to be like, I don't like being skeptical, which is funny. We're talking about how I'm going towards some more hopeful data, right? But I'll be honest, I feel like once this blows over, you're gonna see a lot of people who are all about washing their hands, they can really stop. They're gonna just start treating it like the same way that the flu was. And to me, that's what's unfortunate. That's why the silver lining, things like this, to me, really show a lot of people's character.
Yeah.
Now, granted, some people, it's not that they have bad character. Sometimes crappy situations can make people act crappy, even when they're usually a great person. But in a lot of ways, it's shown me a lot of people where I'm like, wow, that I don't buy with this person what I thought I did. And then a lot of other people, it's caused me to have way more respect for them than what I did at one point because of how they're handling themselves in these situations. Like when I see people that can have discussions and disagree, but stay cordial and discuss these. That's beautiful to me because the vast majority of what I see is you're wrong, you hate people, demonizing, so on and so forth.
On my post from this morning, I kept like, I posted my post from this morning. People were like, I put thoughts like I posted a video and put thoughts.
Yes.
So people are like, your thoughts is you're a fucking asshole. It's not like what?
Oh, what on that video you put? So there was one comment that really stood out to me. This blew my mind. By you posting that, right? And that's what I want to talk about the same video where the politician was basically talking about kind of more of the data come out being like, hey, we have to look at, we have to start testing antibodies. We have to look at a larger population group versus what's being tested, right? Okay. There was one comment, I can't remember the guy's name, but he said literally, you're posting this to rile people up and cause fear. Wait a minute. So he clearly is biased towards the more doomsday data, right? Which to me, that scares me a lot more than a politician saying, hey, based upon some information coming out, this might not be as deadly as we thought, and we might not have to keep how is that going to rile people up or cause them to give into fear? Would that not give them hope?
I was totally fucking like lost on that one. I know the one you're talking about. I was like, and I even said like how?
Yeah,
because here's the thing: other people were like, "You're wrong," because here's this study, and I would just put "Thank you." What the fuck? Like, I mean, my thing about it, and of course, I would go back and forth with some people because if you stick to the old shit, like it was, you're not an expert. This woman is a doctor. She's head of the response team. She is literally giving fucking thing, and everybody's like, well, because she works for the administration, she's lying. That may be true, but you're now assuming like I don't. Here's my thing, people. I'm an independent voter. I have voted for independents. I have voted for Republicans. I have voted for Democrats. I have voted in my time all up and down the board because I listened to their platform first. And I can tell you this, I have not voted for somebody I actually want to get fucking elected in many fucking years. I have voted against the person that I don't want to get elected. And that's a fucking sad statement. And that's why we should reelect nobody in 2022. # reelect nobody in 2022. And we should try to make sure that like we install term limits and everything like that in Congress, blah, 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 all that shit that I'm going to be hitting on the other channel. But if you are vested in seeing the government fail at this stage, you are invested in seeing society fail at this stage.
Yes.
So, grab yourself right now, stand up, go look in the fucking mirror and realize that if you are actually hoping that the government is wrong at this stage and not handling shit correctly, you are hoping society fails. I don't care if you're a fan of the government or not a fan of the government. If you are not hoping that they are successful right now, you're hoping that society fails.
Yeah, there was a tweet, and I don't even actually have a Twitter account because I think Twitter is AIDS. But the stuff gets sent to me. And it was one where it was basically an article just expressing that, hey, now that we've done this with the shutdown, we need to discuss what our next possible options are. Mm-hmm. And somebody retweeted it, but their caption with it was like, see, this just shows that Trump and his administration just care about the rich while the rest of us dies. First of all, read through the article twice to make sure it didn't mention Trump once. I don't think this person understands that if the longer the shutdown is, the rich aren't the ones who are really going to suffer from that as much.
No.
They'll be impacted, but the longer this goes, the more that those at the middle income line and lower are going to suffer.
Well, the longer this goes, it is more of an opportunity for very, very rich people to scoop up more portions of it.
Exactly. So I'm like, it's the opposite. Like this going for longer would benefit them, and people don't understand how it all works together. Because people are like, "Oh, the economic collapse affects the rich." It's like, yo, it all works upwards, man. Like, listen, even if you want to talk about big corporations, guess what? Big corporations hire a lot of people. So if that corporation gets hit, a lot of those people are getting laid off.
Yep.
So there's this whole mindset, which once again, just unnecessary divisive rhetoric of, oh, rich versus poor. Like, this is affecting everybody. Everybody.
Yeah. And somebody said, Alan, if you're talking about the presidency, it's 2024. I mean, in 2022, the 2022 elections, where we actually vote like where it's the midterm elections, re-elect nobody. And then in 2024, re-elect nobody. In fact, if they're a millionaire, we shouldn't elect them, in my opinion, of course. I mean, we should elect actually people like like this young man. This young man should be in Congress. Like not me, because no, I'm like the most unelectable motherfucker alive. But but that's what I meant by that. In 2022, when we have elections again, because 2020, the players are already pretty much determined. The candidates are pretty much determined. I'm talking in 2022, none of the usual suspects should be on the ballots. Like, re-elect nobody in 2022. That's what I mean. It's the Swolefessor for Congress in 2022. You heard it here first, man. You heard it here first. Dude, for real though, we need intelligent people. You never know what's down. You're a very captivating young man, and you're intelligent, and you believe in science and fact, and you think things through. You think on a very macro level, and that's one of the reasons why I think you and I get along, is because I don't like to look at things as like in a microcosm or in a vacuum. How does this actually affect everybody? And that's what I fucking that's one of the reasons, one of the things I've always loved your fucking work, always. So that's why I had you on before, and that's why I wanted to talk to you now, because I was like, maybe people can understand, maybe people can actually see that we should be asked, like I keep saying this, we should be asking as many fucking questions as we can.
Yeah.
How old is what are the demographics now? Have the demographics changed? Has it all of a sudden shifted where it's not just elderly people? Has it all of a sudden changed? And if not just elderly people are dying, do they have underlying issues? If it switches where it's not, all of a sudden it mutates and it can just kill anybody, that's important fucking information we need to fucking have.
Right. Well, the most dangerous thing about this, and most people, even the people who follow the doomsday model, agree, is that, hey, it's unknown. We don't know, right? So by that logic, you should be trying to find out as much as you can. You can't do that if you don't ask questions. You can't just take what, and this is with anything, but you can't just take information that mainstream media gives you.
Oh God, no!
Dude, we can talk about fitness, dude. If you just followed information that mainstream media gave you in terms of health and fitness, oh my goodness, it's ridiculous, man.
I don't know any real fitness professional that watches any mainstream media fitness and thinks it's fucking adequate.
It's a joke. When people quote Dr. Oz to me,
my fucking God, what a quote.
I get triggered, honestly. And it takes a lot to make me feel triggered, man. I'm hard to offend, but when someone's like, oh, I know you said this about calories in versus calories out, but Dr. Oz says if I eat these superfood, oh my God.
Yeah, the 0 fucking calorie foods or negative calorie foods. Shut the fuck up. They had, and I used to respect this motherfucker. Before I actually got back into fitness the full fucking way, I used to watch a show called, because I've always been interested in weight loss and helping people with weight loss, because I did nutrition for a living for fucking 15 years, Yeah. So I watched the Extreme Makeover edition for people from Chris Powell. You know who I'm talking about? Him and his wife, right?
Right.
And I used to fucking respect him so much for that show. Like, I really did. It was like the actual approach. He didn't have people doing stupid shit. He followed them for a year, so they lost weight over the course of a fucking year. All that shit, right? And he would call them. It was basically what we do, because we coach people from a distance. We just keep in daily contact with them, and almost like at this stage, for all of our clients, we're trying to talk to them video chat at least twice a week, because isolation is bad for people that have food issues and stuff like that, right? Right. And he fucking, I'm looking at people to fucking destroy on YouTube one time. Couple years ago, about a year and a half ago, because that's what I do. And Dr. Oz is always good. I can always squeeze out a video calling him an idiot. And Chris Powell comes on there and he's telling people how to recover from a binge. You fuck. First of all, you shouldn't make it seem like a binge is something you just fucking recover from. Because for a lot of people when they binge, like people with binge eating disorder, one binge causes a binge cycle. So what happens, especially in this scary time, and if you have binge eating disorder, please listen. Because what happens is people normally binge eat from, there's many things that are around a trigger food or something like that, but they also from stress.
Psychological. Very psychologically involved. Yes.
Yeah, stress is a huge trigger for binge eating disorder. So they get very, very stressed in their life. Then they're around a trigger food, so they binge. And what happens is they have that same stress in their life, and then they get upset at themselves for binging. So they have double the stress, right? And then the next day they binge again, and it just is a cycle that they eventually have to break, right? And some people, like on a binge cycle can last 30 days, and people can gain fucking like 20, 30 pounds in a fucking month because their binges are so enormous, right? And right now, especially with people being isolated and everything like that, I encourage everybody to make sure you find something once a day that makes you laugh on TV. Watch your favorite TV show. Watch your favorite something that's going to make you laugh and smile. I encourage everybody to use social media to make sure that you can visibly see and hear your loved ones. Don't just text. Visibly see and hear your loved ones because there's a calming effect in that. But understand that it's the most stressful time in human existence for most of us right now, right?
Right.
So.
And that's another thing with you probably see on Instagram all the challenges going on, the push-up challenge, this challenge, blah, blah. Now, let me be the first to say, I personally, just because my personality, I think most of it is stupid. However, I see the benefit of it because you're forcing people to kind of get their minds away from for a little bit, interact with each other, distract, and that's needed right now. That's why even though I have my personal thoughts on some of it, I've not been out like, oh, these things are so stupid, because I think people understand this is helping a lot of people cope with it. And far be from me to judge you from, hey, if doing 10 push-ups makes your day, hey, go for it.
I mean, that's why honestly, like, when people have been like so viscerally reacting to me, I had somebody be like, well, there goes your subscriber count. There's a few fucking more important things going on than my fucking subscriber count right now.
Right.
Like, I mean, if you are a YouTuber and you're worried about your subscriber count right now, I can tell you this from the bottom of my heart, fuck you. I mean, like, if that's the concern you have, like, if you're worried about making videos because of your subscriber count, at this fucking stage in our fucking society, you're a piece of fucking shit human being. But anyway, back to the binge eating thing. People right now are very stressed, so it's very important you talk to people, visually see them, because that's a big thing. Visually, like we have there's a lot of we have several clients who are stay-at-home moms, and they're used to seeing the other stay-at-home moms every day after they drop their kids off. Video chat that shit. Have fucking morning tea with everybody. Have morning coffee with everybody. I've been doing a lot of morning coffee just for the members and our clients and stuff like that. Just live, sit down. Let's talk about something else besides this shit if we can. Or let's try to instill hope. Like this morning, I was like, I really think I'm hopeful that this means it's coming to an end type stuff. So like we it's such a stressful time that people need to fucking stay healthy. That people don't fucking get it. Like, I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, we really need to do shit that makes us not think about this 24/7. If you are sitting and watching a death ticker, most of my content has been based around this, and I can tell you this right now. Yesterday, I laid in, this is not to make people jealous, but I laid in the pool on a floaty for about an hour and a half, literally, so I couldn't have my phone in my hand. Just to make sure I fucking disconnected from all this shit for a while, and then I just listened to music for a little bit, like all my favorite artists and stuff like that. I really wanted to make sure that I was fucking, detaching myself, because it's not healthy for me either. That's the thing.
Right. And that's why I keep telling people are like, oh, what do you think about people who are still training or gyms that are staying open, but they're like, when people like, oh, is that good or bad? I'm like, well, once again, context dependent. Like, are they going to the gym and going home? Because listen, for a lot of people, and I know this with dealing with a lot of my clients, like training, forget just the physical benefits, the mental benefits of it, the health, which is why for some of my clients, even if they don't have access to a home gym or a gym right now, I'm making sure, hey, this is what you're gonna do at home for a workout. Keep moving. Don't stop moving. I don't care if it's boring. I don't care if you think, oh, it's not gonna come with the big three. We need to keep you moving. I had a call with a couple clients the other day where we actually there was no real objective reason to do this. It was a simple at-home workout. But I called both of them at the same time so we could just talk and discuss it. It's been more interactive because it makes everything feel better. Right?
Dude, you're fucking awesome. You're fucking awesome.
Because
and training, I'm just letting everybody know. If people think I'm fucking crazy right now, watch when I don't have access to training for a little bit. No shit. Like I don't normally lift. I don't normally lift heavy anymore. But I fucking deadlifted heavy the other day just to fucking scream some shit out. Dude.
It makes a huge difference, man. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, like just to fucking scream some shit out. Like, I pulled pretty heavy for my old ass age, but I was shocked because I hadn't pulled heavy in a long fucking time. But it's so important that you take care of yourself right now. If you're sitting down, like I want everybody to grasp this. I think we're going to wrap this up on this. So I'm going to give my final thoughts, and I definitely want you to give yours. And I want you to tell everybody where they can fucking find you, where they can get your programs, where they can buy your services, everything like that. Because two things: one, you deserve the exposure, and two, we're not really in direct competition, so I don't mind. But I almost lost my fucking train of thought. What was I saying? Blah blah blah. I wanted to wrap this up by saying this. Holy shit, Alzheimer's moment. What the fuck? Okay. I remember. If you are sitting at home watching a death ticker and you are completely inactive and you realize you're gaining weight, or your activity, because your activity levels probably dropped way down because you don't go to your job anymore, and you're probably eating more calories than what you were before because you're bored and you're scared and shit like that. Realize that you are putting yourself at risk by gaining weight, excessive weight quickly and stuff like that. Eating garbage food, eating excessive food. That shit can have a negative impact on your health, and a negative impact on your health right now can put you at risk for increased complications from this and other fucking illnesses. Yes. So do yourself a favor and really, really, really try to be mindful about what you eat. Make sure you are thinking, am I hungry or am I just bored? Try to do that. Get some fucking activity in. I tell this to people all the time. If you're a couple at home, you should be fucking like rabbits. I mean, like you really should have. Like if it's just the two of you, fucking, you don't got no place to go. Ain't nobody gonna be knocking on your door. Fucking have at it. What the fuck? There's gonna be tons of babies born in like 9 months from now. Tons. I at least hope so, because you need some enjoyment in life. You need to make sure you're taking care of yourself. You need some activity. You need to make sure you're not negatively affecting your health while being home during this. Please do take care of yourselves. And again, all you people, because I'm gonna let you wrap it the fuck up. And you can even say the goddamn and shit like that if you want to. But please do understand. Like, please do understand. I'm not trying to present stuff in order to be divisive, which I'm always divisive. I'm not trying to say stuff to hurt people's feelings. I'm not trying to say stuff to negate possibilities. I'm trying to get people to actually think about what is going on. Think about the numbers. Think about the questions we should be asking. Do not listen to your news outlet when they tell you that it is, that this is the case. When your news outlet tells you that cases are soaring, that only definitely means that more people have been tested. That's it. Yes. That's all. I mean, that's all it means. Somebody just asked if I read the comments. Dude, I've been talking for an hour straight. Not always. No. I really, really, really don't. So, and I'm having a hard time reading all the comments because coronavirus. That's not. Anyway, go ahead, man. And you tell everybody where they can find you. Tell everybody where you even find where your programs are, what you do for your clients. Right. Tell them everything you do, because and I wanted to let you know, and just for the record, I put him on the spot asking if he wanted to come on today to help people understand the science and behind reading and studying and the numbers and some logic. So I wanted to tell you that I really appreciate you doing this, because I'm not the easiest person to sometimes be associated with, but also that I think it's a very vital, important thing for at least the audience that is going to watch to realize that there is questions that need to be asked. And I'm getting the impression that a lot of people aren't necessarily going to be listening to me about it. So I appreciate more than coming on, and I plan on having you on a lot more often. Just so because how you explain stuff is very eloquent. I appreciate it. And that's what I mean. And somebody just said, "I'm Italian, and please take the coronavirus seriously." Nobody said nobody isn't taking it seriously. Nobody said that. That is a straw man argument.
I wouldn't be on here talking for going on almost 2 hours if I didn't take this seriously. That's right. The whole point. Like, we want to know what the best steps are going forward to take it seriously. But
go ahead.
Yeah, so everyone, you guys can find me on YouTube, the Swolefessor. That's one word. You can find me on Instagram at the Swolefessor. If you're interested in any of the services that I offer, you can email me at theswolefessor@gmail.com. My YouTube channel is informative. It's all about health, fitness, social well-being, and I try to break everything down by keeping it simple, specific, scientific. 3S of the Swolefessor. I try to make sure I explain things in a way that anybody can understand, take and apply it. I try to be very specific with what I'm talking about. I'm very clear when something applies generally versus when it applies specifically. And as far as being scientific, I try to make sure that everything I do is as evidence-based as possible. Right. In terms of Instagram, same thing. It's very similar to my YouTube. Like I respond to comments. I respond to as many DMs as possible. I am very active on my story with answering fitness questions and social well-being questions. I love engaging with the community that I've built thus far. So I'm one of those guys where I do try to take the time to answer all the comments and DMs that I'm able to when I'm able to. As far as what all I offer with coaching, whether it's powerlifting, general strength training, body recomposition, weight loss, I offer programming, nutrition, movement prep, and I'm all about longevity. Doing this in a way that is efficient, but it's also going to be good for you in the long term. So I offer different packages. If you're just interested in nutrition only, programming only, if you want full-on coaching, like I said, shoot me an email to swolefessor@gmail.com, and you can see that. But as far as closing thoughts, the main thing I want to say is, first of all, Alan, appreciate you having me on, man. It's always a pleasure. It's always an honor. And that the first thing I want to say, guys, is that as cliche as it is, please understand that we are all in this together. Yes. If you're American, we're all in this together as Americans. If you're a human being, we're all in this as a human being because the whole world is dealing with this. Yep. It is okay to be afraid. It is okay to be stressed out. It is okay to not agree with everything that everybody says. That's totally fine. But do not sit here without at least trying to understand each other's viewpoint, without looking at more of the information that's being presented to you. Do not just shut people out. Do not just demonize each other. And even for those of you where maybe you're stuck around people you don't want to be stuck around with, right? Because you're quarantining, treat each other with love, treat each other with respect. Yeah. This situation is already crappy enough. And if you get so caught up, like saying the negativity, that's only going to make things worse. If you're able to go outside for a walk, go outside for a walk. Do what you can to stay positive, to do what you can to stay active. But as far as the information that's been presented, just understand, like right now, we're in a transition phase where we've shut down because we felt it's what's best right now. That's great. But before we decide to shut down for more months or to not shut down or whatever, we need more information. Absolutely. And a lot of you, regardless of what they choose to do, are going to be in panic mode if you don't take the time to look at the information that's being presented to you as well. So I strongly urge you, take however you may feel about Alan, however you may feel about me or anybody. I'm very big on telling people information is made valid by the information itself, not necessarily who it's coming from. Yeah. Try to separate your bias from how you may feel about someone, and take the time to look at these models, take the time to look at the data being presented from these experts beyond just what you're seeing in the media. Please, yeah. I encourage you to, because if you do that, I guarantee you'll be a little bit more at peace, because knowledge is power. But you'll also realize that it's very likely, we don't know, but it's very likely that things are not going to be as bad as what we may have originally thought. And to me, that's nothing but good news. Other than that, treat people with respect, man. If you know that you're somebody where you're not like the nicest person, then maybe just avoid talking to certain people. If you know that you're going to disagree with them, like treat each other with respect, treat each other with love, and we're all going to get through this together. I truly 100% believe that. I don't think it's going to be in the society. I think it's going to hit us hard, but I think that we're going to overcome it. And kind of like I said in my YouTube video earlier, like my biggest goal with this is 5 years from now, let's say, to be able to look back and be like, man, when that situation was going on, I did everything I could to try to stay positive, uplifting, and informed. Versus looking back 5 years and be like, man, I'm really ashamed of how I was acting, which a lot of people won't anyway. But that should be the goal, in my opinion.
I absolutely agree. I always say this: facts are facts, no matter who says them or where they're said. You know, like I've even made a video about that where I pretty much said, you know, it doesn't matter as long as it's a fact, it doesn't matter who says it with the lighting or anything like that. It's fucking true. So, man, I got to tell you, it's been a pleasure. We'll talk more probably tomorrow. Just so everybody understands, I'm in my garage gym in Florida, and it's about 110 degrees in here. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go jump in the pool, cool down, because I'm fucking hot, motherfucker. But dude, thank you again so much. I cannot possibly express to you how my appreciation for you coming on, and I wish you the best success. And if there's ever anything I can do, let me know. And I do still plan on having you back on fairly often. I'm gonna start trying to do. I often talk about doing a fitness roundtable. Right. And I would love to have you back on. So absolutely. We did some stuff with the Swole vendors, but I do want to do like the fitness roundtable. So. Somebody said, Alan, the social contract was rough but needed. Hope you can do things to talk about a video I did. But anyway, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. You know who the fuck I am, so you don't need to subscribe and shit like that. So I'll talk soon. Goddamn.